Everybody, my cat wants to play. My cat, here, let me see if the YouTube's awake. Let me see how the YouTube's going here. Come on, YouTube, wake up. There it is. There it is. There it is. All right. What's up, everybody? Lucy really wants to play. So as soon as this is over, I'm going to have to play with Lucy. But welcome to the patron stream. This is Get Your News On With Ron. This is the patron stream where I only respond to the patrons, and the replay is only available at patreon.com/Ron Placone. So this is the patron stream, and I have a couple special announcements that I'll be making. And, if you're catching this live and you're not a patron, you can become a patron for as low as $1 a month. Got an extra $1 a month? What do you say? $1 a month. All it takes to become a patron. Lucy, what's up? Lucy is wanting to play, which we'll be doing shortly after this. Once this is over, I'm going to play with Lucy. It's what she wants. That's what she wants. So let's hit it, shall we? So this is from Podcast by George. What's up, George? Thank you for dropping some stuff for me. George has a statement here. DNC and its affiliate CNN conspired against Tulsi because of her prior takedown of Harris and Clinton. By excluding Tulsi from the New Hampshire town halls, CNN is proving Trump's criticism for them being fake news is correct. Why would CNN want to be seen as proving Trump right? The media is a disaster. It has always been a disaster. The media has a long history of trying to get anti-war candidates off the stage as soon as they possibly can. So they try to get someone like Tulsi Gabbard, who talks about ending our wars and ending our regime change wars. They try to get her off the stage quick. They did the same thing in 2008. Who did they want to get off the stage as soon as they could? Dennis Kucinich, Ron Paul. What do those two candidates have in common? Not much, except for one thing. Both wanted to end the wars. If the DNC could screw over Bernie harder, or the corporate media could screw over Bernie harder, they would. They'd get him off the stage if they could. He's too popular. They can't get away with it. That's the only reason he's on that stage. Why do you think they never let Mike Gravel on that stage? Why do you think they always switched up the rules so that Mike Gravel couldn't get up there? That's what the media does, and the media has been that way for years. Why? Because they're in bed with the war machine. MSNBC used to be funded by General Electric. They make bombs. We have an inadvertently pro-war media. We always have, because they're funded by the people who benefit from war. So you're always getting a pro-war perspective from the corporate media in the United States. And what do they publish? They publish corporate-approved PR. That's what they do. So this is not a Trump phenomenon. And Trump yelling fake news, this isn't some Trump theory here. And it's really frustrating that when you lob actual critiques of the media, you get, you sound like Trump. It's incredibly annoying. A lot of us were talking about the problems of the media for years and years, long before Trump came along, at least came along as a president. And when Trump says that CNN's fake news, he's right for all the wrong reasons. He doesn't have a problem with CNN or Fox or MSNBC because of all the reasons I just gave. He has a problem with the corporate media because he thinks they're not nice enough to him. Big difference. Big difference. But I feel you, George. I'm with you. Rudy says, how is it Fox gets it? Look at this Dem shill immediately doesn't know what she's talking about. All right. So, Rudy, you sent a video link, and we're going to watch it because this video involves Kennedy over on Fox News. So we're going to watch some of this video. It's kind of long. We're not going to watch the whole thing. I got to admit, as an elder millennial, which is what I am, I'm the tail end of the millennial generation. Kennedy used to be a VJ on MTV. Back when MTV actually, the M actually stood for music, and it was relevant. And had a big crush on her when I was a kid. I think, right, Lucy? Lucy wouldn't know. This was before your time, Lucy. But had a big crush on Kennedy when I was a kid. Now, Kennedy is a conservative talk show host over on Fox News. That's what she does now. I've never really watched much of her show. But here's a clip from it that Rudy shares. So let's check it out. Kennedy.
Sorry, Bernie, the fix is in. The Democratic establishment hates you. So Hillary said it. Now they're going to do everything they can to keep you from winning the nomination. They stole it from poor Bernie in 2016. They're gearing up to do it again, and here's the evidence. Sanders supporters say they are furious. The DNC has named 2 Hillary Clinton allies to key positions overseeing rules for this summer's DNC. One of them, Hillary's 2016 campaign manager, whose face took a lot of vases on election night, John Podesta. The other, former Massachusetts Congressman Barney Frank, who stumped for the People's Pantsuit before the last election, considered her attack dog.
The People's Pantsuit. That's pretty funny. I don't know who wrote that for Kennedy, but that's a pretty funny line. Or maybe Kennedy wrote it herself. I don't know. She's a show host, so I'm assuming she has writers. Maybe she does, maybe she doesn't. I have no idea. I'm sure she could have written that herself. I don't know. I don't know if she ever did comedy or not. I actually have no clue. Like I said, she was a VJ back in the day. I remember having a crush on her when I was like 11. And I know that she does a Fox Business show now. That's literally all I know about her. But People's Pantsuit, funny line. Whoever came up to it, bravo.
And what is the prize? Hillary herself just gave a perfectly timed interview to Variety magazine where she says, quote, she has the urge to run again because she feels like she can beat Donald Trump this time. I swear I'll do it this time, guys. It's easy to see why Sanders and his rabid fans are a little suspicious and upset. At a rally on Sunday, the Vermont socialist told the crowd that while his enemies might play dirty, oh, he's ready to fight.
This campaign, I don't want to fool you here, this campaign has taken everybody on. And all across the country, let me tell you, that the big money interests are getting very nervous. They're looking at recent polls in the...
All right, so where's...
Poor Bern.
So they're talking about Bernie. So where's this... all right, so here's the panel.
I think that people are reading a little too far into both of those things, except he's right that the establishment hates him, fears him.
Yes.
And it's sort of amazing watching them go through this exact same process again, because they were caught off guard by this 4 years ago.
Sure.
And now he's running again. They said, oh, well, we've been through this again. And then he's rising in the polls. He's in first place in Iowa.
Doing better than he was last time.
All right, all right, let's move on.
Complaints this time around, so it'll be harder to shift.
Okay.
And we all saw this coming. And I knew she
ripped him really hard.
She was confronted with her statement about nobody likes Bernie, and she's like, yeah, I said it.
Well, I mean, you look, in 2016, there was a legitimate civil war in the Democratic Party and a civil war in the Republican Party. The difference is in the Republican Party, Trump dominated and won. Scorched earth, and it's his. You remember they were talking about changing the rules at the RNC to keep him out, but there was no option. He just destroyed everybody else. Bernie Sanders...
Yeah, Ted Cruz even said at the RNC, vote your conscience, and people
that's right.
lost
and
their
he was
minds.
booed out of the arena. But Ted Cruz almost lost his Senate re-election, and it had something to do with that. Now, on the Democratic side, Bernie Sanders didn't win, but Hillary Clinton went on to lose to Donald Trump, and Bernie Sanders is back. So the war is still on, and you can see everybody...
And he thinks he could have won.
Well, yeah, and so do a lot of his supporters.
That's part of the fight.
Now, here's the real issue, right? Even if you were saying...
I think he could have won.
I think he might have.
I
think Kennedy's right.
Better shot
I agree with Kennedy.
But even if Podesta and Barney Frank being on the DNC isn't going to tip the scale, it's going to be perceived that way.
Yes.
And say Bernie Sanders doesn't come away with the nomination. Now you've got Hillary Clinton.
All right.
On the DNC, and that's sending a message because he's the strongest candidate right now. If that establishment really believed in him and they were really trying to shore things up, they would make sure that some of the people who were amenable to his camp were in those key positions. They're not doing that because they're still trying to do whatever they can. President Obama said if Bernie continues to surge, he's personally going to come out.
Well, yeah, I expect the president, former President Obama, to come out and support whatever Democratic nominee.
No, we said they're going to come out against Sanders.
Oh, against Sanders. Yes. Well, I could see that. The reason why is because I think there's been an issue with Sanders and Clinton, obviously, from the beginning. And I don't think that a lot of Democrats trust Sanders supporters. If you think about it, a lot of those Sanders supporters actually voted for Donald Trump in 2016.
That's not true.
Because their candidate was so bad.
That's not true. Okay, so what you just said is not true. There were not many Sanders supporters that went on to vote for Donald Trump. Most actually voted for Hillary, or they didn't vote at all. And more Hillary supporters voted for John McCain than Sanders supporters voted for Donald Trump. All right. So what she just said is false. And this is why I fast forwarded to this. Rudy, this is what you wanted me to catch. So I can see why. All right.
Because you think about 16% in Pennsylvania. That was a key state for Hillary Clinton, and they lost it. And so I don't think that a lot of people are trusting Sanders supporters. I don't think that they look at them as committed Democrats. They look at them as socialists.
Let's let go of the idea of committing to the party. I mean, that's
I know,
a
and that's
point that a lot
wow.
of Democrats use him like, well,
no,
he's not a party guy.
But it's true. It's true, and that's why they don't want him in there, because they're going to lose.
They're not party voters. She's right.
Moderates.
Yeah.
Wow. Okay. So I'm assuming that I probably disagree with Kennedy politically on a lot. I'm assuming that. Maybe, who knows? I mean, there aren't many lefties on Fox Business. So I'm assuming she's probably on the right, and we probably disagree on a lot of issues. But everything she said in here, I pretty much completely agree with. Other than this person spouted false information that most Bernie supporters voted for Trump. That's not true. No one corrected that. But everything Kennedy said, most of these swing state voters, they're not party line voters. Most young voters, they're not party line voters. They vote on a candidate. They vote on policy. She's right on. And she's right on. She's saying, I think Bernie would have beat him. Hillary was, all right, anyway.
Moderates are not going to go for Bernie Sanders. They're just not. And there was a poll that came.
How'd that work the first time when you ran a moderate? Moderates aren't going to go for Bernie Sanders. Well, what are they going to do? Go for Trump? Some of them will, some of them won't. Moderates, you tried to appeal to the moderates before, and you know what happened? The Republican won. Because if you give people a Republican or a Republican light, they'll just take the Republican.
The choice between Donald Trump and Bernie Sanders.
They might not vote.
Here's a fun little fantasy scenario that is a bit far-fetched but plausible.
Oh, I love it.
Because, yes, let's engage in some fantasy here, Kennedy, a little Fox News fantasy. Let's say that because of the new allocation of the delegates, which is proportional, this thing stretches on. And it might not, but it's plausible. Stretches on and goes to the convention. Then the Bernie delegates are looking at the Podestas and the Bernie Franks on the committee. And if he emerges from Milwaukee as not the nominee in a contested convention, they will be screaming bloody murder, and we'll be sort of on the home stretch to a general election. That could be a shattered party that would be very difficult to piece.
Yeah.
All right, so there we go. I think that's the gist of it. Thank you for sharing that, Rudy. Very interesting. Yeah, I mean, again, so please, for all I know, Kennedy has said some horrible things about whatever issues in the, I don't know. I mean, maybe I have no clue, but basing it off this one segment, I agree with pretty much everything she said in this segment. Again, the last time I saw Kennedy on a television set or in content, I guess, was on a TV screen when I was about 12 years old. I've never watched her show on Fox News. I know very little about her other than she used to be a VJ on MTV. But everything she said in this segment, I pretty much agreed with everything she said. The establishment's trying to screw Bernie Sanders. They're working on it again. He should have been the nominee. He got screwed over the first time. The people will go for him. People aren't these diehard Democrat party line voters. They vote for candidates. They vote for policies. They want someone who's going to speak to them. She's right. And that other panelist seemed pretty clueless. Thank you for sharing, Rudy. That's interesting. That's interesting. All right, cool. Mark shares this. Check out this tweet. This poll was done by a Never Bernie hater. Okay. And proceeded to make a thread after the poll, assuming that people would agree with him. All right. So I'm going to check out this poll that you sent. The American Centrist. Okay, cool. So I'm assuming this is a centrist. Here we go. American Centrist. I think the name kind of says it all. If Bernie Sanders becomes the Democratic nominee, would you vote for him in the general election? 55% said yes, 44% said no. Goes on to say, Bernie is a flawed politician with flawed political ideology that dismisses individualism, liberalism, and even democracy in favor of the all-important goal of socialism. While Sanders might be running for the Democratic nomination, he is not and never was a Democrat. That's why we like him. His presidency would wrap real problems like racism, geographic disparities into his overreaching narrative of revolution. Okay. That makes zero sense. All right. Distracting the country from issues that can be resolved. His policies remain routed in the 20th century, even as we deal with 21st century challenges. These are, first of all, that's not true. He has the most ambitious climate plan ever. That's not stuck in the 20th century. That's actually very ambitious. He has a Green New Deal. He has the most ambitious plan to tackle climate change. He has a plan for high-speed internet for all. He's the only candidate that has something like that. That takes the internet out of the hands of these corporations, puts it into the hands of cities, and assures that we have high-speed quality internet for the foreseeable future, and we're going to have a free and open internet for the foreseeable future. He's the only candidate that has come out in banning facial recognition technology because he realizes how dangerous it is. So he's actually the most forward-thinking candidate. And it's pretty sad in a lot of ways that this 78-year-old from Vermont is more forward-thinking than a big tech guy. I mean, Andrew Yang doesn't have a plan for high-speed internet for all. Bernie Sanders does. No other candidate does. Millennial Pete, although I think he's a Gen Xer. Pete's a little older than me. But that guy, he doesn't have any plan like that. Bernie Sanders does. All right. He has consistently been against, all right. Do we have to go through all this? I mean, we get it. This person hates Bernie. Let's see. Even if he won, he has consistently been against the interests of the U.S. on the world stage in favor of the interest of international socialism. And what's that is code for, he doesn't favor regime change wars. That's what that's code for. Even if he won the general election against Trump, the scale of the pendulum shift in the violent rhetoric that he is certain to use to advance his political revolution will further inflame the divisions and hatreds burning across the country. No, you know what's going to further inflame the divisions across this country? The rich and poor gap that is remnant of ancient Egypt, the rugged neoliberalism, the handouts for Wall Street while Main Street is left to suffer, the idea of college becoming a tool solely for the elite, people dying in the streets because they don't have health care, the homelessness epidemic, poverty. These are the things that are going to keep us divided, not programs that are going to make people's lives better. But let me take a guess, American centrist. Someone was rude to you on Twitter once, okay? For these reasons and so many others, I cannot support Bernie Sanders for president. So this American centrist would not support Bernie Sanders. They have a negative follower count. A negative follower count. They follow more people than are following them. So their follower count is around negative 500. So interesting. Their own poll says they support Sanders. They go against the results of their own poll. And Mark, thank you for sharing that. A piece of advice: don't give a shit about polls with people with negative Twitter following counts. The American centrist. Hey, the American centrist has a poll. You want to check it out? No, not really. No, I don't really care. But thanks for sharing, Mark. That was interesting. Let's see. Edwin, about 2 hours ago, Santa Enamorado, I don't know if I pronounced that right. Sarah Enamorado endorsed Bernie Sanders. That's awesome. She's PA state rep HD21 in Pittsburgh. Yeah, her and who was the other one? Lee. What was, man, it's going to bother me. Hi, Lucy. There was Summer Lee, Sarah Enamorado and Summer Lee, both DSA members, both won seats in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, my hometown. And when I played Pittsburgh last, somebody actually gave me some of their Summer Lee flyers and whatnot. They wanted me to have it, which was really cool. I was like, oh, that's sweet. And yeah, what else do you say here, Edwin? She's from your hometown. Yes, she is. She has a bat emoji on Twitter. That's cool. And endorses Bernie. Makes sense for an interview on Get Your News On with Ron. I will look into that. Yeah, I'll have to. Here, let me check her out here over on the Twitter. And yeah, I'll tweet her, and I will try to make that happen. That'd be cool. I'd love to have her. I mean, I've heard a lot of good things about her. I've heard a lot of good things about Summer Lee as well. I've not met either one of them, but I am aware of them. And yeah, it'd be cool to interview her. Absolutely. Thanks, Edwin. Mark, here you are again. Just reminding people that Hillary used the term fake news before Trump did. Really? And then they used the term misinformation online. Interesting. I never knew Hillary did. I mean, I'm not surprised. You know, something to keep in mind, and I know I'm preaching to the choir here, but it's like the worst media policy ever in my lifetime. Oh, did I have oh man. All right. So Hillary, I can't check this out because it's from the Washington Post. And I hit my limit on my browser, so I'd have to refresh my browser here. But anyway, yeah, what are you gonna do? Let's see here. Maybe I can. No, see, I can't do it because this thing's on. But anyway, yeah. Here, let me see if I can Google it. Hillary. Oh, here we go. Check this out. This is from the BBC. BBC. Boom. The almost complete history of fake news. All right. So, in record time, the phrase morphed into a description of a social media phenomenon into a journalistic cliche, blah, 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 blah. All right. So, the young people may or may not have much interest. All right. Donald Trump. This article kind of sucks. Endorses. And so all right. Misinformation, blah, blah, blah. So I guess they're saying that Trump did it first. Interesting. President Trump did the fake news awards, but apparently Hillary said it first, which is interesting. It is interesting. Well, and fake news has just become code for something I don't like. If it's something I don't like, it's fake news. That's what fake news has become code for. You don't like it, it's fake news. Castillo, thank you very much for the Super Chat contribution. Only good thing Trump has done is expose the MSM for what they are, even if others tried. I very cordially disagree. What Trump has done, I mean, I think a lot of the people who were very cynical towards the media were already that way before Trump got there, whether it was on the right or on the left. I think that kind of cynicism was already there. The problem with Trump is because Trump screams fake news all the time. Now, whenever you come along and you have a legit criticism of the media, people are like, well, you sound like Donald Trump. And then you're like, no, I'm talking about the fact that it's a for-profit entity run by a handful of corporations whose only concern is pleasing their shareholders. And their only concern is pleasing their advertisers. So you don't get an honest story about climate change. You don't get an honest story about net neutrality. You don't get an honest story about war and peace. You don't get an honest story about what's going on in Flint. You don't get an honest story about any social movements because they're there to preserve the status quo, not report and challenge conventional wisdom. That's the problem. Donald Trump just says they're mean to him. So no, I'm not like Donald Trump. And I've been writing about this shit for years before Donald Trump was running for president. Anyway, so that's my take on it. But you know, maybe there's some people out there that you know that they got turned on to it and they heard Trump say fake news. I don't know. I guess I can't say that's for sure not the case. But yeah, that's kind of the way I see it. You know what I mean? Where it's like now if you have a legit criticism about the media, they're like, "Oh, you're like Donald Trump. You're like that Donald Trump." We need to have a good guy and a bad guy in our world. We can't possibly fathom a situation where there's only bad guys. Because we grew up on comic books, and the comic books had to follow specific laws and guidelines and purity rules that they instituted as a result of the Cold War. So it has to be real patriotic, and there has to be a good guy and a bad guy. That's what happened to American comics, by the way, around the time of the Cold War. So we need a good guy. So if Trump's the bad guy, well, the CNN must be the good guy. I thought that our news was very irresponsible and wasn't doing good journalism, but that was all a myth. Because if Trump's the bad guy, they must be a good guy. I can't fathom a world without good guys and bad guys. But it's like, no, they're all bad guys. CNN sucks. Trump's right when he says that. He's right for all the wrong reasons, but he's right. And Trump, still not a good guy either. Isn't it weird how that works? Anyway. Thank you very much for that, Castillo. Very much appreciated. Mark, Edwin, Rudy, and Podcast by George, thank you for your thoughts on this patrons-only stream. And I said I had a few announcements, and I do. First of all, some of you were asking how the plumbing thing. So For those of you that didn't tune in to Get Your News On with Ron earlier today, my sink was backed up. And so the plumber was coming like right after the show. The plumber was coming at noon. So I was like, we got to end Get Your News On with Ron before noon because I got the plumber coming. Now, my landlord at the apartment complex I live in contracts with this one plumbing company. And my sink is connected to one of the neighbors. You know what I mean? Like the pipes are kind of connected. So basically, if one of us gets a clog, the other one will as well. And so every now and again it happens. And it happens usually like since I've been like once a year, it happens, you know? So the last time it happened, I called the company like the landlord told me to. And this guy came. It's a family company, by the way. And this guy came and he was very intense, I guess is the right way to put it. Now, he did the job, in fairness to him, and he was a nice guy. Like, it's not like he was mean or anything, but he was kind of like, at one point, he told me he was going to have to climb up on the roof. Now, some of you in the comments have said that actually that isn't totally uncommon. Sometimes you do have to go on a roof to snake something. I've never heard of that. Based on my apartment complex, that seems like, I mean, our roof is like high but anyway, but again, not a plumber. So I guess there are scenarios where that can happen. I don't see how it's all that common. I don't see how for a clog, it's all that necessary. I mean, maybe it's like a real extensive clog or something broke or there was a leak. But anyway, apparently that is possible. But here's what else. He said at one point, he was going to have to knock out a wall. Now, I don't know. Please let me know if that's normal. No one in the comments has said that that's normal. I've never heard of knocking out a wall in an apartment being necessary to unclog a pipe. Again, I'm not a plumber, but I never heard of that. When he was saying that, I was thinking, dude, that's a little intense. He ended up not needing to do any of these things, by the way. What he did do was he took this hose, he extracted the clog, and he did it by sucking it out with his mouth and then spitting it out over the balcony. He was on my back. He put it over the balcony, and all this stuff comes gushing out over my balcony. My apartment's a mess at this point. It was intense, and I've never, again, not a plumber, but I've had plumbers before. I've had clogs before. We all have. I've never seen anything that extensive happen. It was a little nuts. I was like, this guy's a little, and honestly, I think he would have knocked out that wall had I not been like, dude, are you sure we have to do that? We're going to have to talk to the landlord before you knock out a freaking wall. So again, he got the job done, and he wasn't a mean guy or anything. It was just kind of like, dude, are you freaking serious? And, so I wanted to be home when this happened. And I was telling the story. I'm like, dude, I want to be home because I'm worried this guy, like, God knows what he'll do if I'm not here. So anyway, the plumber shows up, and it's the other plumber. Complete opposite experience. Dude was just like, oh yeah, I got this. He just snaked it for like it took like 10 minutes. And he was like, yeah, you're good. He's like, let me just make sure that that it's not leaking below you. Let me see if the people down below are home. Let me just make sure they're good. And as long as they are, you can use your sink right away. It's fine. And that was it. That was it. 10 minutes. In and out. That was it. It was just a regular clog, just like the last time. So, and I felt like asking him, I was like, would there ever be a situation where you'd need to knock out a wall to get out of, is that a thing? Just the other guy's a little intense. That's all I'm saying. You might want to tell him not to overdiagnose. I feel like that might have been what he was doing. Again, not a plumber. Feel like that might have been what he was doing. So anyway, my plumbing trip was spectacular. Yeah, it was somebody. Oh my God, his mouth. Yeah, dude, like he sucked it out. I'm not kidding. He sucked it out with his mouth. It was nuts. I mean, it was pretty nuts. And it sounds like one of you guys said it sounds like he was trying to maybe scam some unnecessary work. I thought that. I did kind of think that. And it was to the point where I was like, should I like maybe tell my landlord this story and be like, look, dude. But they ended up just, there wasn't like some crazy charge or whatever. It was just like a regular thing. So if he was trying to do that, it didn't work. Like he didn't, extract a bunch of money out of this gig or whatever. But Yeah. Anyway, it was. I think he just kind of overdiagnosed things. Like, I don't know what his deal was, but it was pretty intense. And after he did that, I was like, dude, do you want like some mouthwash or something? Like, do you want something? Do you need a thing? And he was like, no, I'm good. Just a glass of water. That was all he asked for. A glass of water. It was a little weird. But yeah, this other guy, complete opposite. The other guy was just like, oh yeah, ran a snake, and he's like, you're good. I was like, you want some water? He's like, yeah, have a nice day. RBU83145. Thank you very much for the super chat contribution. Castillo, thank you very much for the super chat contribution too. Got me on my look. Just because Trump says the media is bad doesn't mean that if you say the media is bad, you're being like Trump. The media is actually bad, and here's the reasons why. Anyway, RBU83145. Is Bloomberg's ad blitz going to have any adverse effect on Sanders, or will it actually help? I don't think it'll have one effect one way or another. I think all Michael Bloomberg's ad blitz did was give us something to laugh about. Now, of course, maybe there's something I'm not aware of. The most recent things I saw were the talking dogs, because there were some talking dogs in the Michael Bloomberg ads, because I guess stop and frisk didn't apply to dogs, so I guess they're cool with them. And then I saw his ad where he's eating big gay ice cream. So I don't know if there's other ones that are about Bernie or whatever, but either way, I don't think Mike Bloomberg is all that relevant. I think he's pretty ridiculous, and that's pretty much all I have to say about him. Really, I just think he's nuts, and I don't think he's going anywhere. I think his campaign is over. That's what I think. I think it's over. All right, so. And my special announcement, guys. I'm announcing this for the patrons only. I didn't announce this on the regular stream, but my show, Sounds of Revolution, which is going to be, well, it's not a show. It's a new series on Get Your News On with Ron, where I'm going to be interviewing musicians about 2020. And I'm going to be having longer conversations with them about what they want to see in 2020, who they leaning towards, who they want to vote for, et cetera, et cetera. Well, tomorrow is going to be the first episode of that, if all goes as planned. It's going to be remote. It's not going to be in person. Some of these are going to be in person. Some of them are not, depending on the person's availability. But we got our first one. And it's an interesting one. This person qualifies because she used to be in a folk band. Our first interview is going to be Jill Stein, and that's going to happen tomorrow at 2 p.m. Eastern Time, 11 a.m. Pacific Time. What's Jill Stein hoping for 2020? I don't know, to tell you the truth. We're going to talk to her about it. Who's she leaning towards? What's the future of the Green Party going to look like? We're going to get to talk to Jill Stein about it tomorrow. I'm pretty excited. I told her about the series. She was into it. She wanted to do it. So Jill Stein is going to be the first guest. It's an unlikely guest, right? Like when you think musicians, but she played in a folk band. Technically, she qualifies. Technically, Bernie Sanders played music. He qualifies too, by the way. Bernie Sanders could qualify does qualify to be on this. We'll see. We'll see if we can get Bernie on it. Bernie will do a Sounds of Revolution segment. Anyway, so that's a special announcement. That will be happening tomorrow if all goes as planned, if all goes off smoothly. So that'll be happening tomorrow. I'm really excited about it. And I will see you all then. And that's just going to be at 2 p.m. Eastern Time, 11 a.m. Pacific Time. The usual time to Get Your News On with Ron happens, Monday through Thursday. And patrons, again, I could not do any of this without you. This show would not exist without you. And Anxious Lucy wanting to play would not be as happy and playful if it was not for your patronage. She wouldn't, because she'd be like, my cat comic. Nobody would know about it if it wasn't for the patrons. That's the truth. Lucy and Ron wouldn't be a thing if it wasn't for the patrons supporting the written dialogues. This show would not be expanding if it wasn't for you. The Sounds of Revolution series would not be a thing. We're trying to make mini docs on municipal broadband. That wouldn't be possible without your help. You make this show possible. And again, if you're watching this and you're not a patron yet, if you're watching this live, you can become a patron for as little as $1 a month. $1 a month. And it goes a long way. Patreon.com/Ron Placone. And for those of you watching this replay, patrons out there, thank you so much for being part of this. Your patronage is 1,000% essential. 1,000% essential to the survivor of this show. And we got a couple more super chats. Rocky, what's up? Good to see you. Please get Steph to play Elizabeth Warren and call Jimmy. All right, not my call, but we'll see. That'd be cool. I'd be for it. Hey, Ron, I am a software engineer that found you from Jimmy Dore. Hey, Robert, how are you? I used to be an unaware Democrat who believed the neoliberal lies. I am doing my part to support independent news like you and Jimmy. Thank you very much, Robert. I appreciate that very, very much. Thank you. That's awesome. So RBU 83145, Castillo, Rocky, and Robert, thank you very much for the super chat contribution. I appreciate that very much. Thank you all very much. Thank you for tuning in. Thank you for spending an evening with me. And podcast by George, Rudy, Mark, and Edwin, thank you very, very much for this week's topics. This stream would not exist without the patrons. You make this a thing. Doing another late night one. It's pretty fun, huh? Lucy, you need brushed. I didn't brush Lucy yet today. I was had to, so the plumber came. Then after the plumber came, I was like, well, I better go to the gym because I went to the All Things Comedy Studio to do a live stream with Graham Elwood and Dave Anthony, which was a lot of fun. Hope some of you guys got to check that out. It was a blast. We did a political vigilante live stream, and it was me, Graham Elwood, and Dave Anthony. You know, I don't say stuff like this often, but it's kind of trippy to, and it's pretty cool to, you know, before I moved to Los Angeles, I used to, you know, like watch all those guys on TV. You know what I mean? Like I watched Dave Anthony on Mark Maron's TV show, and I saw Graham on various shows as well. And you know, it's pretty cool to collaborate with them all now. You know, it's pretty neat. It's pretty humbling and really cool. Glad we moved to LA, Lucy, huh? Aren't you glad we moved to LA? Remember back before we lived in LA and I was on the road all the time? I was like gone. So now I'm not on the road as much. I don't do it as much. I just do it once a month now. So we have more time to hang out. Huh? Remember when I lived in a car and was like super depressed? You remember those days? You remember you had your little thing in the back seat. You would like you would have a little thing like you would have your little cat bed and you would just kind of nestle there. And then we'd get out and I'd walk. Remember you used to let me walk you? You remember that? Remember that? You would spend some time in foster care. Yeah, man. This cat's been on a crazy ride. This cat, she's seen it all. She's like, dude, I've been with you since you were in college, motherfucker. I've seen it all. Right, Lucy? She wants to play. She's like, dude, let's play. All right, we'll play. Guys, thank you so much for your patronage. It means everything. I could not do it without you. Literally, you know the drill. Lucy says meow. I say peace. There's a bunch of tour dates. Go to ronplacone.com. Get all those tour dates. And in the meantime, you know the drill. Lucy says meow. I say peace. Jill Stein tomorrow. Later.